Hey again, everybody. So, today I want to talk about a topic that actually one of you commented about, and I was kind of planning on speaking on this as it ties into my most recent video a little bit, and the comment was asking what I would define finding the true self as. I was going to reply to this comment, but I figured I could kind of flesh it out more and give a proper answer in a full video. I didn't really think I could get everything across just in a text format. So yeah, I want to talk about that today. And to start it off, to kind of pull us off of what we talked about in the most recent video, that you are either you or you are nothing. The sense of self comes from not necessarily the things that you do or the habits you have or things like that. Of course, your actions tells yourself and tells others how you behave, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what you are attracted to, and what you avoid. And so thoughts lead to actions, actions lead to habits, and habits lead to your lifestyle. And when it comes to self, though, I think that there's some indicators that can kind of tell us when we are close to or have achieved a state of kind of knowing our true selves. And I don't think it's something that is just like it just clicks. I don't think it's something that you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I know who I am. It's not a overnight thing. It's not really even a thing that you will fully be sure of. I think it's a gradual buildup of confidence, self-confidence, and determination to fit in your skin, a determination to, as we said in the most recent video, cause the shape of your soul to be something that you're proud of, to be something that is beautiful to you. And so sculpting that shape, I think, comes down to a few factors. And I wrote down a couple bullet points here. So the first one is comfortable being alone. A sense of self comes from being by yourself. And when you are completely alone and you have nobody else to speak to, you only have yourself to speak to and to get advice from, and things like that. And so you'll know that you are at least at a point that you're close to having full self-confidence and full sense of self when you can be alone and it's not grating, it's not draining. And some people are very social, and being by themselves is going to be draining pretty much no matter what. They have that social battery that needs to be used, and I certainly get this way kind of around certain times of the year, especially summertime, when it feels like you should be hanging out with people often. And so oftentimes when I don't see somebody all day long, I've just kind of been doing my own thing, much like today, then I kind of get this itch at the very end where I'm like, oh, I should text somebody. I need to hang out. I need to see somebody. And this isn't a weakness. I think that this is a very good thing to motivate us to go out and meet new people. However, I think that oftentimes what can happen is that we jump to that feeling when we want to avoid thoughts that we're having when we are by ourselves. And instead, taking the time to face that first before we see anybody else and kind of analyze where our own heads are, that's where that sense of self is going to come into play, because we're not then relying on the company of anybody else to soothe that wound, that negative thought, whatever it might be, kind of facing that on our own. And when you can kind of get to a point where this isn't a dangerous thing for you, and this is more of a reflective thing where it's not causing pain, but it's causing, the right kind of pain, you could say a constructive pain, that you can face it, analyze it, adapt to it, and overcome it. And that's where that sense of self is going to come from on that regard, and where a lot of self-confidence is also going to come from. And the next point that I wrote down is self-trust. Now, trust is very difficult to kind of define or know when you fully have it. And I certainly have trust issues with people. Just from other experiences throughout life, you kind of realize some things are better done on your own, and you lose that innate trust for a lot of people. And not that I think that every person is bad and every person is somehow beneath me or can't do what I do, so I don't trust them to do it. It's more of a self-reliance tactic of, well, I don't want to have to put the burden on somebody else. I need to trust only myself to completely get this done. Which is good and bad in multiple ways. But that self-trust is super important when it comes to knowing your true self. And this especially comes down to habit and discipline and things of that nature, where you can't really rely on anybody else to tell you. You can't have somebody who's going to tell you to go to the gym, tell you to study. You set your own alarm time, and I've so many alarm times set, and I burn through like the first 3 of them before I actually get up. And I just saw TikTok. This is kind of a side thing, but I saw TikTok today where it was like most guys have that one thought where they're just kind of in bed and they don't want to get up, and then they just suddenly think, just wake up, and then you do. And I totally have that too, where it's like, what am I doing? I should be up right now. But anyway, things like that where you have to rely on you to push through, to actually get that thing done. And this also goes for allowing yourself to have opportunity and actually seizing opportunity. For example, I've recently seen an old friend from back home, and he's in sales. He's got a pretty good thing going. So I asked him if there's anything over the summer, because I'm, looking for summer work. I asked him if there's anything that he could offer me. And he said, yeah, man, I can get you in contact with some people. So he had me fill out a form online, and I'm meeting with him and his advisor tomorrow morning. So with that, I kind of just thought, might as well. This is an opportunity that might help me for these coming months. So I went after it, and that was a self decision. And I had, multiple thoughts of, is this really worth it? I could apply to a couple other things that might be not as much work, but it's going to open me up to a lot of new things. So, doing things like that, doing things where you might not have the initial drive, the initial interest in it, but your subconscious mind, or kind of the side of you that wants to be disciplined or is disciplining you, kind of gives you that extra push. And so that's kind of where that true self comes into, where you know that you have this disciplined side that is going to tell you, nope, we're not going to do that, or yes, we are going to do this, get up, go. And when you have that voice and you allow it to actually influence you, you're going to trust yourself a lot more. And when you actually follow through and you see the fruits of the labor that this voice is telling you to do, then it feels really good. And you feel like, wow, I actually did this. I told myself I was going to do it, and I followed through, and I actually did it. And nothing really beats that feeling, because when you are completely self-reliant and you do something not because anybody else told you to, that's where that sense of true self and sense of self-trust and self-worthiness comes from. So another thing, my 3rd or 4th bullet point here, is criticism is taken and applied. And so this can come from, anybody. Criticism is oftentimes difficult to accept and is not easy, especially when it comes from certain people. And I know how this feels. It sucks when you kind of have one of those days where you feel on top of things, and you are just, boasting confidence, and you are just, shining. And, maybe you're doing something with confidence, but you're actually doing it wrong. And somebody's like, hey man, you should do it this way. Like, you're not supposed to do it that way. And it kind of breaks your stride. You're like, oh, I guess I'm not, I guess I'm not perfect at this. And it can be a good wake up call and a good ego check. And this is especially prominent with going to the gym and things like that. And of course, there have been multiple times where I'll put a weight on that is a little heavy, and I'll go for it, and maybe only get four or five reps in, and then be like, I just kind of, I sent everything on like my first set, and now I am exhausted. So, which isn't horrible, but kind of shooting for that 8 to 12 range for the type of training that I want to do. So things like that, where you kind of have that ego check, but you can take it. You can see that it's there to benefit you. It's not there to belittle you. And most people that are offering you criticism, as long as it's constructive, are there to help you. They want to see you be better, and that's why they're offering it. And most of the time, it's not because they just want you to feel stupid. So that's kind of another part of it. And on the other side of that, cutting out toxic people and being able to do that and recognizing when they are toxic. Then this is not always a very obvious thing. Some people may not appear toxic, and maybe not toxic is the right word, but at least somebody who's going to kind of hold you behind or stunt your own growth. And this can't always be an obvious toxic person, because if somebody sucks, then they suck, and if they're not very nice, then they're not very nice, and you probably don't want to be around that person. And that's when it's easy, that's when it's obvious to kind of cut them out. But sometimes it's also people who are going to kind of hold you back, and might either always try to one-up you in everything that you do and make you feel less of yourself, or might try to talk you out of things that you're trying to get better at, and might tell you, well, man, I don't know if that's going to work out. Or like if you share goals, if it's not, yeah, dude, go for it. And it's instead, well, I don't know, man, might not work out. It's probably not a person you want to be, one, sharing goals with, but also two, not a person that you're going to grow with. So yeah, those are kind of the main bullet points that I wrote down. And finding a sense of true self is not not an easy thing. It's not an overnight thing, and it's not something that I think most people in my age range or around my age range are really going to have figured out. I know I don't have it figured out, but I think I know that there are a few indicators that can tell you when you're close to it and when you're kind of lagging behind it. And it comes from that self-worth, that self-confidence, and especially that self-trust. So something to keep in mind, something to think about. And I know I've certainly been thinking about it. I have been uploading a little bit less lately. I just had things going on with school, and still just kind of treating my back injury. And it's better now. It's definitely better now, but I am kind of trying to keep things on the lighter end. But still been going to the gym, still been tracking all my macros, getting everything in as best as I can, and trying to not stress over social things as much. Kind of been in my head a little bit with that, so working on that. But I hope you all are doing well, and probably gonna do a live stream this weekend, so look out for that. But that'll be about it for now. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.